Yes, sir.
Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Ethics Commission set for July 10th, 2019. It's a little bit after 5:30 p.m. First item to take care of is a call to order. Can we go ahead and do roll call? City Fredo Perez, present. Mr. Saba Zapata.
Present.
Ms. Adriana Alexander.
Present.
Mr. Mark Pease. Present. Mr. Hector Lee Patiño.
Present.
Mr. Frank Castillo.
Present.
Mr. Vidal Cantu.
Present.
Mr. Henry Herford.
Present.
And Ms. Elsa Galvan.
Present.
Good, everyone's here. We have a quorum. Okay, next item is 2, general citizen communications. Did we have any people that signed up? Oh, I'm sorry. So, Mr. Henry, I understand that we have 3 people for each item with a maximum of 3 minutes per person, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have this list. I've got 11 people that have signed up for comments.
Yeah, what the ordinance and the agenda note, that is if more than 3 people sign up for a single item, that they're supposed to discuss amongst themselves which 3 are going to get to give the presentation.
Okay?
Also, remind the commission, as citizen comments, citizens aren't sworn. This is just comments to you. They're not evidence for any evidentiary hearing, which we haven't actually entered yet.
Okay. Now, how do you propose that we sort through these 11 persons who have signed up so we can allocate 3 to any one item?
Normally, like the first individuals that signed up for the particular topic are given the ability to, ask if they want to come up or if they want to have any of the other members actually speak on the item itself. I would note that if the citizen to be heard is actually one of the respondents, that
Yes, we have Mr. Vish. He signed up. And I don't see Mr. Gomez as well.
okay, they're going to get more time when they're under oath, so they don't normally called up during a citizen comment section because they're the respondents for
Okay.
Who's here. So
then they will not be heard in public comment?
not in the public comment. They can come up and be under oath to give their statements at
Okay.
that time.
So now we've got 9 people. Do you want me to call one by one? Do we hear just 6 or?
It's technically up to, you call them basically in the order they signed up,
Correct.
and they have the ability to pass it off to somebody else on the list if they want to. But once you have those 6, then you have those 6.
Okay, so just call them in order.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Find out who's going to speak on this.
That's what I'm going to ask when they come up.
Are all of them on the same topic?
That's what I don't know. That's what I'm trying to sort through. We've got, excluding Mr. Vish and Mr. Gomez, we've got 9 people. I don't know which of the 9 of you are speaking on any specific item, whether that's 5A or 5B. Perhaps you amongst yourselves can decide which 3 will speak from the 9. Is that possible?
Could I ask for one clarification?
Yes, sir. Mr. Carter.
For the record, my name is David Cardwell. I understand what Mr. Henry is saying, but this topic is so important. What's 3 more speakers? Why not hear the 9 speakers? Maybe some of them will be in your time limit and give them an opportunity. That would be number 1. Next thing is, what if each speaker has something a little bit different and something relevant that maybe the other speakers didn't say? So in other words, you're saying your 3 minutes will be out regardless if you say something that's relevant that might be different. You don't know what we're going to say yet because you haven't heard us. My comments has nothing to do with, 5A and 5B?
Yes, sir.
All right, my comments does not reference those 2 individuals. See, you didn't know that, Mr. Henry. So why not let us speak? I mean, what is it, 6 plus 3? What does it hurt tonight? We got time.
I make a motion that we hear all 9 people. It's only 9 extra minutes, so that's fine.
I said.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Against? So go ahead and share.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Cardwell, you'll be number 1.
Thank you. Honorable Chairman and Commission members, for the record, my name is David Cardwell. The City Code of Ordinance, Section 2-397, Open Government Compliance. First statement in the paragraph states, proceedings of the Ethics Commission shall be in compliance with the Texas Open Meeting Act and preserved by written and audio recordings. Having complete written meeting minutes preserved and available to the public is essential for an open and transparent government entity, more so for this Ethics Commission. Your meeting minutes and agendas should be posted on the Ethics Code website for all citizens to view any time of the day or night. But my research shows there are numerous minutes and agendas not posted on your website. Regarding the April 10, 2019 meeting, that is not posted, and that's 3 months ago, and the minutes have not been posted yet. Dr. Pena and myself gave presentations. Then at your request, we stood at this podium for a Q&A. And then you requested we submit our comments in writing, and we did. I would bet that when these minutes are posted, they will be similar to your other posted minutes, which are skeleton minutes. Will our presentations and comments just fall into a black hole? Skeleton meeting minutes are incomplete written minutes because they do not preserve in writing complete discussions and presentations. How can the average citizen be aware of the business this Ethics Commission is going to address or the actions taken if your minutes and agendas are not posted? Think about tonight's agenda and the minutes from your previous meeting. Neither are posted on your website. Neither. So again, how can an average citizen know what topics is going to be discussed tonight and why it was going to be discussed? Do you have any plans to correct this matter because it needs fixing? Are you violating the Texas Open Meeting Act by not preserving complete written minutes? I see no reason for this matter to be referred to Mr. Henry or Mrs. Hale because this Ethics Commission was created to be an independent government body. You need to make your own decisions and only consult with Mr. Henry or Mrs. Hale when you seriously need legal, and I repeat that, seriously need legal guidance. Do the right thing. Take your duty and your responsibility to the citizens seriously, and if there are deficiencies in the Code of Ethics regarding oversight of the City Council and city employees, then create a section, a new section in the code, and take it to the council for approval. Otherwise, what recourse do we citizens have? Thank you for allowing me to speak to you this evening.
Thank you, sir. Next on the list is Ms. Cynthia Vasquez.
Good evening, Honorable Chairman and Commission members. For the record, my name is Cynthia Vasquez. Section 8.02, Structure of the Ethics Commission, Recusal. Here are some statements from the section. A member of the Ethics Commission shall recuse himself or herself from any case in which, because of familiar relationship, employment, any economic interest, or his or her impartiality might reasonably be questioned. An Ethics Commission member may not participate in official action on any complaint that involves the member of the City Council who nominated him or her for a seat of the Ethics Commission. Mr. Chairman, since 2 of your 9 members have been recused from participating in this meeting, I have some questions and comments for you. Even before I start with any questions and comments, I realize that you will probably not respond to any of them. However, should you respond, then I am requesting that I be allowed appropriate time to finish my presentation. Which of the ethics recusal reasons was Mr. Herford recused from? Because Mr. Herford is married to Melly Herford and she is a citizen who asserts her constitutional rights. Which of the ethics recusal reason was Mr. Castillo recused for? Frank Castillo was recused because he was appointed by Dr. Martin Martinez. Who investigated the reasons and made the decisions that each of them should be recused? If it was not you, Mr. Chairman, then it should have been you because you are in charge of the independent commission. were the remaining 7 members of the Ethics Commission investigated to determine if any of or all of them should be recused as well? If the answer is yes, then is the public to assume that under oath that none of you 7 members have any conflict of interest in regards to financial relationships or employment or any economical interest, or your impartiality might reasonably be questioned? If you answer no, then, Mr. Chairman, you need to stop this meeting and ask yourself and the other 6 members if they have any conflict of interest in regards to familial relations or employment or any economic interest on your impartiality might reasonably be questioned. Mr. Chairman, when I am talking about conflict of interest, it includes appearing in Judge Hell's court. I believe you're an attorney. Also, doing business with the city of Laredo or city contracts. I believe Mr. Vidal Cantu Jr. is affiliated with Clark Hardware. Mr. Chairman, for transparency, the public needs to know if any of you 7 remaining members overlook reaccusing themselves and now need to recuse themselves. Please make sure that all 7 have no conflict and can legally participate in this evening's meeting. All members of the Ethics Commission must exercise good faith and avoid participating in this or any meetings on the Commission where there exists an actual or perceived conflict of interest. My closing request is for you, Mr. Chairman, to determine now if you and Mr. Cantu need to be recused from this meeting. The public will be waiting for you to make a good faith determination.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. And the answer is no, there's no basis for it. Ms. Millie Herford?
Good evening. My name is Melly Herford, and I'm here to exercise my First Amendment right and share my opinion with you. The First Amendment guarantees every citizen the right of free speech, the right to peaceably assemble, or the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. And this is what these 2 citizens did in filing their complaint. I believe that you, the Ethics Commission, went too far by suggesting that these 2 citizens be investigated to determine whether or not they filed a frivolous complaint. Are you trying to harass them or suppress them? They're right. Section 101 of the code clearly states that, and I quote, "The code shall apply to public officials and city employees," end of quote. And it makes no mention of citizens. If legal knew that the commission did not have jurisdiction, why then did the city attorney not say so instead of having to incur the legal fees of Ryan Henry and going through this process that got us nowhere? Maybe you should investigate the frivolous actions of city management for their unwillingness to provide transparency and accountability in answering the one question. We have learned a couple of facts going through this process. One is that the code needs to be strengthened, as it is meaningless without jurisdiction and consequences for illegal deeds committed by city management, employees, elected officials, appointees, resulting in unlawful behavior. You had previously stated that the commission had no jurisdiction to hear complaints, so I would like to know under what provisions of what law allows you to punish a citizen for doing his civic duty in their search for good government. Furthermore, Section 510 of the code talks about lobbying, but that section clearly states that, and I quote, "Nothing shall be construed to prohibit or interfere with any person's rights guaranteed by the United States and Texas constitutions," end of quote. We did not need to go to this extent had the city answered that one question, but refused to do so. Every citizen has a right to question their government at every level, and the city management failed because they are too busy trying to keep their jobs, which greatly interferes with them doing their jobs. I really believe that this is a vendetta against Fish. Previously, he was escorted out of City Hall for pointing fingers during citizen comments. So this is not the first time he is disrespected. This brings me to the second item we all learned, and that is that the customer service needs much improvement. Section 101 of the code states the following, and I quote, "The city will strive to elevate the level of ethics in local government to provide honest and responsible service to the citizens of Laredo and to maintain the confidence and trust of the public that this government serves." End of quote. At the present time, there is no such confidence in our city government. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Armando Cisneros.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. Armando Cisneros for the record. Thank you for clarifying that there is no basis for any other conflict of interest. In answering that question, then I gather that you did investigate any possibilities of there being any other conflict of interest. Apparently, the answer arrived at was no, there's not. So thank you for investigating and for making a determination. The frivolous, those two complaints that were deemed frivolous or investigating for possibly being frivolous are based on the charter and on the ethics ordinance. Nothing, no other documents, no ordinance or no other just personal opinions. They're based on the charter and on the ethics ordinance. So are you insinuating that those documents are frivolous? Those two documents are not frivolous. Those are supposed to be governing our city. So I hope that you consider what you're insinuating, that these documents are frivolous, because everything that was reported on those complaints is based on those two documents. And also, there is claiming that there might be frivolous is a way of stopping people from turning in more complaints, but what is there to prevent the commission from citing that they're frivolous? We still have to bring Mr. Ryan Henry down here. If somebody says they're frivolous, we have to keep digging in further. So where does that stop? We know that this might stop if you're all citing people $500, but where does the commission stop from claiming that something is frivolous? Thank you.
Next is Mr. Ricardo Quillano. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Ayano?
I'm Skip.
Thank you. Next is Mr. Valentin Ruiz.
Hello, my name is Valentin Ruiz, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you notice, when I signed in, I didn't write anything in there. And why did I not put anything? It's like the Seinfeld show. It's a show about nothing, okay? Usually when I see these meetings, whether it be city council or you all, I find something that tees me off. And that goes to what he was saying, that we should all get together and find out what we're going to talk about, you know. And thank you. Who was the gentleman that said, let them all speak? Okay, thank you very much, okay? Because I'm a veteran of this country, and I swore to defend the First Amendment rights. And thank you, I really appreciate that. And that's one reason that I'm here, because I came here to see city council because I felt one of my brothers was disrespected when he was talking. Se pasó 10 segundos. And I wanted to speak out about that, okay? But now it's this, okay? That's why I'm here. So sometimes people, hay que venir, como dice mi raza, y hablarles al chile, okay? Because you guys don't pay attention to my people out there, okay? We had a man over here who had the ethics committee here that failed him, and that pissed me off too, okay? Were you guys in that ethics committee? Yes? No? Raise up your hands if you're proud. He had an ethics complaint. They're all here. And they're the ones up there. Well, in my opinion, you failed. And that's why I'm here. And Laredo's, the organization is growing. It's growing, and we're paying attention. And by God, if I see another veteran out here, I guarantee you there's going to be another one like me coming and pointing that out to you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Javier Mendoza, please.
Good evening, Javier Mendoza for the record. I'm here because, I ran for city council. I ran against Vish. Mr. Castillo also ran. And, the first thing when we hear things about your opponents or your past opponents and, we became friends. So when I heard about this, I asked Vish, what jurisdiction do you guys have if the attorney says you have none? How can you investigate something you have no jurisdiction over? It's just like you go to a court. Before I go say that, you're from out of town, correct? You're not from Laredo?
I'm not allowed to
Okay.
respond to questions.
I'm sure he's not from Laredo. He's billing you guys. He's billing the city to come down to Laredo. Why didn't he just tell you guys you can't put it on the agenda? It's not under your jurisdiction. Instead, there was a dog and pony show, and it made you waste your time. And then now it made you waste your time tonight, too. You could be with your family. I don't know if they feed you like they do city council. I don't know if there's a buffet back there. So my point is that all this could have been avoided. Taxpayers could have saved money, all because the attorney failed to do his fiduciary duty. He should have just said, you can't put it on the agenda. Put a written statement, an opinion, a written opinion. If you still had your meeting, give the written opinion from the attorney. He didn't have to come down. He didn't have to waste our money. But instead, two people are being attacked. They're being threatened with a $500 fine because they want to do good for this community. That's why Mr. Vish made the runoff. When I was campaigning, people told me, you know what, Vish, he's out there all the time. He was the one fighting for us. And then you're the ethics committee. I thought you guys, wanted to be appointed to this to do what's right for the community, to do what's right, to hold our elected officials accountable, to have held me accountable if I had won, or to held Vish accountable had he won, or Mr. Castillo if he had won. But instead, it seems like we're playing politics or we're just playing bad law, because you guys have no jurisdiction whatsoever over this. And instead, we're here tonight discussing it. Maybe it was a mistake to, put it on the agenda for today. Maybe the attorney says you do have jurisdiction. To me, I honestly feel that you don't have jurisdiction. If you could not make a ruling over an item, how can you tell if it was true or not? Then you're making the decision de facto if you rule against Mr. Vish right now. It's plain and simple. He's wrong when it comes to the law. And I don't have a law degree. That's why I'm here. I'm just concerned. I wanted to speak on behalf of Vish, and, I thank you for your time.
Mr. Luis Cisneros, please.
Yes, good afternoon, members of the Ethics Committee. For the record, my name is Luis Cisneros, and I'm not prepared to give a speech here today, but I just want to touch on a few little things. Number one, the first thing I noticed today is that somebody's trying to change the rules in the middle of the game. We have all been here speaking before other ethics committees, and never have they voted. Only 3 people can speak on a certain topic. So therefore, you're going to limit it 3 people in 3 minutes, and that's it. We have had many ethics committees, many ethics meetings, and even the last one, they didn't involve that. So this is just a matter of somebody telling them, you know what, we got to shut them up. Another thing, you as an ethics commission have a responsibility Mr. Henry stated last time that he wasn't going to go into whether the charter was violated or not. But you have a responsibility to go to the city council and tell them that there has to be something within the ethics committee that protects the city charter. If not, they're just going to walk all over the city charter. They're going to be getting raises without an ordinance. They're going to be hiring ex-employees within 1 year. When the charter says that they cannot do that, the city charter has been walked all over. They can just, they might as well just tear it and throw it in the trash. So I think that if you want to be responsible, you want to do something good, why don't one of you go, or Mr. Henry, go to the city council and say, you need to implement something on the ethics ordinance that says that the city charter, the code of ordinances, and every document that exists by the city of Laredo has to be protected. And any violation of that is going to be an ethics violation. If not, the city council members are going to keep doing whatever they want. It's like Ms. Grelly Herfer says, they're protecting themselves. They don't want to speak out against anybody else. We've seen time and again that these people have no morals. They don't have any ethics. And you're giving them that power. And if there's something frivolous in this room right now, you can draw a line right here, and it's on that other side. Thank you.
César Cantú?
Members of the Ethics Committee, my name is Cesar Cantu. I normally don't like to come up here and talk to you people, but I want to thank you for allowing me to say a few words in defense of Mr. Vish and Mr. Munoz. Ethics is a word that for some reason has lost its meaning, not only in our city, but in our state and our country. The last time I heard our city of Laredo was still a part of this country, where the right of freedom of speech was granted by the Bill of Rights. I admire these two people right here, and I wish we had more like Mr. Vish and Mr. Gomez. And there are a lot of people like Mr. Vish and Mr. Gomez out there who want to protest and state what they feel about how government has been run in our city. And the only reason they don't come up here and speak to you people or the city council is because they are afraid of retaliation. And this issue has come up several times, this fear of retaliation. I have suffered retaliation, and some of the people here have also suffered retaliation for speaking out. Is that the kind of government you want? Where your citizens fear retaliation because they want to come up and exercise their freedom of speech? I stand behind Mr. Vish and Mr. Gomez 100%. And I wish everybody else in this city would stand behind these people. They do what they do because they care. Nobody shows up to city council meetings except Mr. Vish and a few other people in here. They care for your city, and that's why they're there. And you're trying to shut them up? Thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes
So moved.
for the June 12th, 2019 meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second? There's a second. Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Against?
I abstain, Mr. Chairman, I was not here for that meeting.
Very good. Mr. Shapatis noted that you have abstained. Okay, next item on the agenda is executive session. Can I get a motion to go into executive session? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Henry, did we have any housekeeping issues?
There are two issues with regard to just confirming the recusals are continuing as to who gets to go into executive session. And I'd made a recommendation regarding the continued recusal of Mr. Castillo and Mr. Herford from the prior meeting.
Okay. And so I'm not sure what the wishes are of Mr. Herford and Mr. Castillo.
My wife, she was just sitting in a city meeting with Vish and the group.
Okay.
And I'll also recuse myself at this time, obviously, because I'm the appointee for Dr. Martinez. And while it's hard not to listen and make a judgment, which I'm very capable of doing, if for sake of having to be impartial in the eyes of the complainants, I will recuse myself.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Herford, you will have a recuse
Yeah, I'm
yourself.
recusing myself also.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we've got that issue taken care of, so now we're back to, if I can get a motion to go into executive session, please.
Yes, sir.
Can I get a motion to
I
go?
so move to go into executive session.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. 6:03. Okay, good evening, and we're back on the record. Time is 6:40 PM. We're out of executive session, no action was taken. Next item on the agenda is 5A, discussion with possible action as to item A, which is evaluate and determine whether the complaint filed by Mr. Victor Gomez dated May 8th, 2019 against City of Laredo Co-City Managers qualifies as a frivolous complaint under the Ethics Code. Mr. Henry, if you can please, this is relatively new to all members of the commission. If you can just give us a little bit of a breakdown or summary of what the procedures are.
Yes, sir. This is the first time I've seen this commission end up with this type of hearing. So essentially, at the last meeting, based on the information in the sworn complaints, you determined that the complaints appeared to be frivolous, not really based on grounds that were appropriate for the commission, and information that the complainants may have already known that prior to filing it. So you issued a directive for me to inform them of this meeting for a frivolous complaint. This is their opportunity to come forward. They'll be put under oath. They're to provide you with their explanation and information as to what they believed in the complaint. I'll note for the commission that the complaints were against the co-city managers, and so the focus should be on the co-city managers and what information they had that the co-city managers were in fact the ones that should be subject to a proper complaint. So it's recommended that you have a time limit for that. The time limit is really up to you guys. Whatever you feel is necessary, you can adjust it if needed based on what you're hearing. My recommendation would be somewhere around 15 minutes each to keep things moving, but it is up to the commission how you want to proceed with that. But you would probably need a motion to determine a time limit.
Okay, we'll go ahead and call up the first one, and then we'll go ahead and decide the time limit.
Yes, sir.
Does anybody on the commission have any question of Mr. Henry?
I recommend that we use the 15 minutes as stated.
Okay, let's go ahead and call up Mr. Gomez first, and then we'll go ahead and do the motion.
Okay, well, I just thought we should let the public know what they're going to talk about.
That's fine. Mr. Gomez, can I have you sworn in, please? Can you raise your right hand? Do you swear-
Victor Gomez, for the record.
Yes, yes, sir, Mr. Gomez. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can I go ahead and get a motion for the time limit?
So move 15 minutes.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Gomez, did you have an opportunity to hear Mr. Henry explain the procedures that we'll be following tonight?
Yes.
Do you have any questions of the process?
No.
Okay. All right, so the issue is for you to, this is your opportunity to go ahead and explain yourself the basis for the complaints against the co-city managers.
Yes.
And to provide the commission your reasons for filing the complaint.
Yes. The complaint was basically filed against both the co-city managers, interim co-city managers. It was filed in reference to all of the ethics ordinance and code violations that have been listed. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to review the thick packet and every video piece that was introduced to you. If you've had the opportunity to review all the information, every single piece of information that is included in this packet is truthful. There are no false claims, there's no false documentation. The fact that you cannot hear or that you have no jurisdiction over what we deem is unethical, what I am presenting to the commission, that I see as an ethical act on the part of Mr. Eads and Ms. Cabello, that they are not basically doing their job as co-city managers. They are not endorsing the charter. And I have cited and I have listed every single one of those ethics sections 209, every single one of them that applies to this case has been itemized and it's been listed in chronological order. My question to you is, have you had an opportunity to review every item? And if so, do you find any information that I have submitted to the Ethics Commission untruthful or in any form for it to be false? That would be my question.
Remember, we're to listen to you, not you listen to us.
Okay, well, I am saying that every element that on this complaint is truthful. I have submitted every piece of information, the sequence of events. One thing that needs to be addressed and that is very important in this case is that before doing this, before going to these measures of filing a complaint, we gave every opportunity to Robert Eads and Ms. Cabello to resolve the situation. We met, I personally didn't meet, but our Laredo group, we met with them numerous times. I communicated with them. I personally wrote a letter to them demanding action on their part, and they never did. We exhausted all of our means before taking action under the ethics complaint. So we did not want to embarrass them. We did this in private. We have evidence, recorded evidence of the meetings. It did not have to get to this point. Unfortunately, it did. On, I believe it was 4 occasions we met with them, and every time we were shunned, and we were never got, several times on the meetings, and we never got a response from them. So the only recourse we had at that time was to file an ethics complaint to get a response and to hold them accountable for not doing their job as our city charter dictates that they should do. So once again, I will reiterate that every element and every piece of information, every piece of evidence that is here in this complaint is truthful and is for your consideration. And I hope and I pray that you have taken the time to read it and review it properly. I also have three other individuals that have knowledge of this alleged violation. And I would want Mr. David Cardwell, who is, okay, part of the complaint. If you look at the very front page of the complaint, we have, I have included persons, 3 people that have relevant knowledge of the alleged violation. I would like to have Mr. David Cardwell, if I may, and Mr. Vishwashwana, corroborate what I'm telling you. If it's possible, I don't know if it's possible under the rules. I don't know what the rules are, Mr. Chairman. I address you because you are supposed to be in charge of this meeting, and I think Mr. Ryan is only a consultant, and he's in the...
That is correct, but I need to follow through with the procedures that are set forth.
Okay.
That's
Do
why
you
I'm
know the
here.
procedures, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
So, but I need to inquire to make sure that we're in order. And so I appreciate that you just give me a chance, all right?
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Henry, I understand that we can have Mr. Cardwell speak on, with him?
Yes.
Or- Okay.
Yes, you
You
can.
can have Mr. Cardwell, subject to the limitations that we spoke to in terms of time.
Okay. So I give the rest of my time to, first of all, Mr. Vishwana, and if possible, to make it short, and Mr. David Cardwell. How much time do I have left? Can I ask that question?
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Plenty of time.
Mr. Gomez, just so you know, we may have some questions of you, and so in that. if
That
that's
is not a
the case,
problem. Yes, I can be here all night answering your questions.
Very good.
I'll be glad to do it.
Point of order, Mr.
Chairman, just to clarify, if Mr. Vish is also containing the other,
Mr. Vishwana is a respondent, so he'll be given his own, time. Mr. Gomez requested that the commission hear from Mr. Cardwell. The commission has the ability to call Mr. Cardwell and put him under oath and ask him questions. Technically, this is Mr. Gomez's time, and so Mr. Cardwell should be called up next if that's what the commission wants to do. And then Mr. Vishwana will have his opportunity when his
But we are
agenda
still
items-
talking about his case, not mine.
Correct. That's right. You prefer that we have Mr. Cardwell come up first since he was mentioned first?
Yeah, he would fall more under that time limit.
Okay. If we can have Mr. Cardwell come
Does
on
it
up,
matter?
please.
Do you really want to be here?
Where's the name on here?
David, the first name is David, but it's the end. You can pass the time to me.
Yeah. I'd like to go ahead and pass the time to, for the record, my name is David Cardwell.
Yes, sir.
But on this form here, I suppose that y'all have, there's three names. It's my name, Vish, and Armando Cisneros. So, and we're dealing with only this complaint. We're not dealing anything whatsoever with the next
So
case.
we're aware of that,
aware of
Mr.
that.
Cardwell.
All right.
I think just going off the order that's listed
when
here.
he's brought it.
All right. So, in my comment that I'd like to say here,
First, if you're going to make a comment, you need to be placed under oaths. So,
Mr. Cardwell, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes, I do, Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll keep my comments short, and I would like to pass my little comments that I have over to Vish after that. I was the one that made a 3-minute speech to the city council regarding probably the start when this started and probably the root of it. I stand by my 3-minute comments. They're recorded. You may or may not have heard them. You may or may not have read them. I would think you should, because it laid out a lot of where this started from, and after that, then, as Mr. Gomez said, we had meetings with the city staff, with the city attorney, with the co-city managers. 2 meetings, one meeting I was involved in, and they were given opportunities to answer some questions we had. After that, I corresponded through email to the city staff, asking some pointed questions. Finally, they stopped responding to me. With that, Vish?
David, why don't you repeat the 3 minutes that you told the city council?
I don't have that with me, but basically, here's what I did. And I would like to if I had it with me. I didn't realize that I needed to do that. But basically, what I did is I laid out in a chronological order of all the events that led up to it, with the sections in the charter, the sections, everything by the book. I pulled nothing from the air. Everything that I said in 3 minutes was all in order and from a city document. I did not get it from the World Wide Web or anywhere else. I can get that and produce it, but I don't have it with me.
Mr. Vishwana?
Yes.
Are you-
You want me to swear in?
Yes, sir. Can you raise your right hand, please? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, members, you have given us 15 minutes. You really have to look at this document. If Mr. Gomez, by the way, this is only for this one, Mr. Gomez has to say that his complaint was not frivolous, you really have to see what happened here. Because everything that's listed here, whether we go through this or not right now, if you don't go through this, you cannot prove or disprove it's frivolous or not. Let me just tell you a few things that I wanted to point out. If you look in second page, okay? When we did the complaint, I'm speaking to you also, sir, because I just want you all hearing anyway. We actually identified the ethics codes that were violated, okay? That is sad because if we made a complaint and I did not identify an ethics code that was violated, you could say, I don't have jurisdiction. We actually identified the ethics codes that were violated. It's right here on Part E, 4 lines. Because my time is short, I'm not going to read them. You have to read them. If I am pointing you out an ethics code was violated, then it's your job to see if that ethics code was violated. You cannot throw that out, Mr. Henry. You cannot recommend that to be thrown out. The codes that were violated is right here. The ethics code. We are saying the charter was violated. In violating the charter, these following ethics codes were violated. We listed them here. Please, please, look at that. If you want, I'll go through each one of them. 15 minutes is not going to cut it. Second, we have a list of chronology here. This chronology goes back from September 19, 2018 through pretty much when we filed this one. You know, I was a candidate for city council. When I run for a candidate for city council, I have to have a financial report which says, I own this piece of land, I own that piece of business, I have a financial conflict. I have to prove that, write it down, and send it to, I'm sorry, you're not the person. The city secretary's office saying, I have a conflict. These are the properties that I own. I have to give a financial statement. I made that. The person who's sitting in the back in the corner there, he did that too. Dr. Marte Martinez filed a statement. He did not include a piece of information. That is why this complaint was filed. Now, who is responsible to make sure that if a city council member is not doing something right, they have to take action? That, according to the charter, sits with the two city managers or co-city managers. Okay? So we met with them. We met with them 2 different times with the attorneys and whatnot. They did not take any action. That's why we said we had to come back and show you that somebody has to take action here. They did not do that. That's why we said the charter was violated and you guys have to take an action. Without going through the entire document, it's impossible to prove something was. Nothing was done here in frivolous. If you look at the frivolous section, there are a couple of things there. One, if somebody is running for an election to tarnish their image, somebody can throw some dirt out. If that was done, that would be a frivolous complaint. The complaint was against the city management. They're not running for an election. We are not trying to make them look bad in any fashion. What we are trying to do is, they're not doing a section of the charter. If I was running for election, if somebody is throwing mud at me, then I can say, the timing. In any frivolous complaint, timing is important. Nobody's running for election here. The elections were over. The individuals involved has nothing to do with frivolous complaints. Nobody's image is trying to be tarnished here. We are saying that somebody did not follow the charter. The people who are responsible for following the charter or enforcing them are the city management, and they are not doing it. We came to you. Again, the codes that were violated by not following the charter, the ethics codes that were violated are written in page 2. You guys saying you don't have jurisdiction. I am still saying you have jurisdiction. Thank you very much.
Chairman, I do have a question for Mr. Gomez.
Mr. Gomez, can you please come up to the podium, please?
Mr. Gomez, I do want to say is, I praise what you're doing, and it's I don't know what you're doing to advocate for our community. But I wanted to ask you, did you ever meet with the city managers, and did they ever advise you that the commission did not have jurisdiction?
Personally, I did not meet with them. I did not have the opportunity to meet with them.
Who told you that we didn't have the jurisdiction?
What is that again, sir?
Who told you?
When I personally wrote them a letter, and that letter I never got a response from them. I don't know if you've taken the opportunity.
No, I understand, but my question is, at what point did you find out that the Ethics Commission did not have the jurisdiction?
When Mr. Henry, the last time,
the last time that you were here, that's when you were advised that
that's when I was advised that according to Mr. Henry, and not according to the chairman, according to Mr. Henry, when he corresponded with me, the initial piece of correspondence from him, saying that there were some defects according to section 8.0.
My understanding is this. Do you understand why the commission doesn't have jurisdiction over the complaint?
I think that Christina had every opportunity to respond to and let me know that.
Let me explain something.
Okay.
Let me explain something. The reason why I'm saying is the complaint was against the city manager.
That's correct.
To request that Councilman Martinez, the doctor, recuse himself from city council as a city council.
No.
Because of conflict of interest.
That is not correct. No.
Okay.
Nobody else has permission to speak.
We cannot speak.
No.
Mr. Gomez, what you're asking was, in the complaint was to request city managers to act on a council member.
To remove
him from office.
To remove him from office,
Yes.
that is correct.
But-
Yes, that was the demand that I also made in the piece of correspondence that I submitted to interim co-city managers, both proper.
And that's basically
And I hand-delivered I hand-delivered that request. Yes, that is correct.
That's,
I personally hand-delivered and I wrote the letter, yes. And that, I made that request, yes. And it is part of the evidence.
thank you, Mr. Gomez.
And the first time that I found out that the Ethics Commission did not have any jurisdiction was the last time we met, according to Mr. Ryan and according to the rest of you, you deemed that you had no jurisdiction for this. But that does not mean that every piece of information that I have submitted is untruthful or that has been submitted in bad faith.
Mr. Gomez, I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
And going through this chronology that you mentioned in your complaint, I did review it. I do see that you had a number of meetings or people that you were involved with had meetings with people from the city. And it seems to me, unless I'm reading this incorrectly, is that the gist of your complaint here has to do with Councilmember Marta Martinez. And at the very end of your chronology, you have a conclusion, and you're saying basically that you claim that he has a self-admitted financial interest in this entity, River Hills Investments, that he had a duty to go ahead and declare or otherwise disclose that relationship, that he didn't, and you're asking basically that his seat be forfeited, vacated. And that
Because he had an indirect interest in something that he did not disclose.
No, I understand
during his
that.
campaign,
I'm just
yes.
kind of summarizing, but that's the gist of it. You're saying his seat should be vacated because he did not disclose his financial.
According to the city charter, that's what the city charter mandates, and that is the directive that both city managers should have followed, and we asked them amicably, respectfully, to do so, and they basically just shunned us. They never responded.
And that part of the reason why you filed the complaint, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because you felt that this commission had the authority to say, Mr. Martinez, you did not.
No.
You did not disclose this.
No.
You need to vacate your seat.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
'Cause that's part of
The
what your
bearing was, the complaint was solely on the fact that both city managers did not act, and it was their duty to act to have Mr. Martinez removed because he lied.
You wanted us to make that declaration that because the co-city managers did not, according to you, perform their duties under the charter, whatever source you're claiming, that we should go ahead and do their duty and declare Mr. Martinez's seat vacated?
No,
Because that's what's included here.
it is included, but like I said before, everything, on the last piece of information, that is what we demanded from both interim co-city managers in person. And after exhausting every avenue that we had and them denying to act, that's why I decided that the best course of action would be to bring it to the Ethics Commission so that you could act on this matter.
Mr. Gomez, why didn't you file a complaint against Dr. Martinez?
Because.
I mean, if you believe this so strong that he was the one that has a conflict of interest with the city, why not file the complaint against him?
No, because at that point it had been, he was already a city council member. So I felt that the only people that had authority would be the co-city managers. I don't think, unless you start a recall, there's no other way to have his removal. But my only recourse was the city charter.
If I can interrupt for 1 second, sir.
I'm sorry,
1 second, sir.
right now we're only asking Mr.
Okay.
Gomez, is that correct?
You can keep asking, it's fine.
You need to sit down, please.
Continue, sir.
Have I answered your question thoroughly, sir?
Yeah, it was Mr. Patiño who had asked the question.
Have I answered your question
I
thoroughly?
believe so. Thank you, Mr. Gomez.
Yes, I did. Once again, I will reiterate that the complaint was filed in good faith. After every avenue had been exhausted, like I said, I wrote a letter. The letter is included in the complaint. And we were in constant communication. When I say we, the members of our group, David Cardwell, Mr. Vishwana, Armando Cisneros, we had been in constant communication with our city managers, and they never really responded to us. And that's the reason this complaint was filed.
Mr. Henry, I think we had this discussion. What duty or responsibility, or authority, better said, do the co-city managers have with respect to a council member?
To a council member?
Yes.
Under the charter, their duties of enforcement are basically for their subordinates, the way that it's written. So they have the ability to enforce laws and see that they're enforced for anyone that's under their power. But they actually serve the city councils. They're appointed by them. They don't have any power going up.
So in other words, what the request that Mr. Gomez has been mentioning that he was trying to secure is not something that the co-city managers could have even performed?
No, sir. They did not have the power to do that.
Okay, okay, so then that's where Mr. Gomez is coming from with his belief that they have the power to enforce the city charter, which would necessarily involve the city council member. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But they don't.
The co-city managers do not have the authority to do that, no, sir.
Under city charter, does anyone have a copy of the city charter? Have any of you read it or familiar with it?
And one thing, Mr. Gomez, this is something that I wanted to mention, and, you know, I'm all in favor of free speech and the right to speak, and we all have the proper forums to raise our concerns, whether it's a court of law, whether it's in city council or elsewhere or here. And the issue that we've had here is, you know, I've been on this commission for about 3 years now, and we've had a number of cases that have come before us. And as Mr. Mendoza mentioned earlier, yes, you know, we take time from our jobs and our families to take care of this, and we take our position seriously. And we're not here to shut anybody up, but we do expect that the people who make their complaints, that they do their homework and properly investigate the complaint and follow through with it.
Yes.
And in this case, as you mentioned earlier, we don't have jurisdiction. And that's why, like I told some, I think Mr. Cardwell and some others, I said the proper forum for the remedies that you seek would probably be in a court of law and not necessarily through us. And so that's why we're discussing this, is trying to get a clarification about where you're coming from and what we can do.
Yes, may I respond?
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. The
Mr.
case in point is that I will say to you that we tried every avenue. We spoke to in other words, it didn't have to get to this point.
Yes.
They had every opportunity, and we pointed out to them that they had an obligation and a duty to enforce the charter, and we clearly demonstrated to them that we feel that it is their duty as interim co-city managers to act on the charter. They protect the charter, and they are supposed to endorse the charter, as I interpret it. That's the reason I was asking for a copy of the charter.
I understand, and believe me, that's what we're trying to get at.
And the charter clearly states that they have an obligation to endorse, and let me just read what that obligation is. I may be contradicting Mr. Ryan here, or maybe we're reading the wrong charter, but City Article 3, under City Charter, Powers and Duties of City Managers, 305, let me read what that says. Shall see that all laws, provisions of the charter and acts of this council subject to enforcement by the city manager or by officers subject to city manager's direction and supervision are faithfully executed.
Yeah, so the question is whether or not this is subject to that section and what you're asking for. I think that's the issue.
Yes.
And that's what I was getting at. It's kind of also the same thing as some of the remedies that, through your complaint and Mr. Vish, the remedies basically asking us to order or otherwise enforce the city charter, which is something that's not within the purview. What we do here is what city council gives us the authority. And, you know, we are working on trying to get some changes made. Unfortunately, this takes place later on in the year. All we can do is make recommendations, and ultimately, it's our city council members who make a decision as to whether or not they will follow through with our recommendations and amend the ordinance.
Yes, we understand clearly that you basically, people have said, have basically very little power as far as, the ethics. I don't know that in the history, I believe the Ethics Commission was formed in 2013, and I don't recall you ever finding anyone or any of the complaints as valid.
We have.
So
We had one early, late last year, we had one there. At least with the last one I can recall.
So that is my basic duty is to basically tell you that the co-city managers were addressed in an amicable fashion, and we basically tried to resolve the issue before going through all this trouble, and they were non-responded.
I understand. Anybody else have any questions of Mr. Gomez? Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Okay, let me proceed to the next item, which is 5B, evaluate and determine whether the complaint filed by Mr. Lakshama Biswanath dated May 28, 2019 against City of Laredo Co-City Managers qualifies as a frivolous complaint under the Ethics Code. Yes. I'm sorry? What number one?
The item number 1.
Letter A, the first one?
item, 8.
What did you want to clarify?
Talk on some items.
She's not part of the frivolous issue, is she?
No. It's up to the commission if they want to hear from you, but if they're gonna take 1 and 2, then they should call anyone that they want to hear from after that, but it depends on what it is that they need to hear.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Lakshama? And,
Commissioners,
Mr. Grant, just so you know, you can't speak on his behalf. He's under oath, and so we're requiring and this is just part of the city ordinance, that we only allow the complainants or respondents to be testifying under oath. We've had situations with other attorneys that counsel with their clients, but unfortunately, it's not something that we permit. By ordinance, not something that I decide. Correct, Mr. Henry?
That's correct.
All right.
I don't mean, but I believe you all have the discretion, if I may, I'm not trying to testify, but if I may just clarify, just a short closing perhaps, because in this case, it's not an ethics complaint. This is him facing fines, penalties, and possibly never being able to.
I understand, Mr. Grant, but it's just not permitted.
Fair enough.
Want me to swear again?
No, you're still under oath.
Okay, so we are now on case 2, right?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Actually, compared to the previous one, Chair, members, and Brian, this is an entirely different issue. And by now, you already know that we do a lot of research, and it's not like we just come here and throw something out and walk out. We look at what we can do, and when we see that we're not getting anywhere, that's when we end up taking routes like maybe filing an ethics complaint. This second one very specifically has to do with a specific issue. And if you look at my original complaint, we not only had a complaint, we actually identified a specific section of the ethics code that was violated. Okay, I did say that. So if you look here, it says City Charter 3.05 was violated. Since there's only very few of them, I'm going to read it. Ethics Code 2.02 was violation. Again, Ethics Code 2.02 was violated, and City Charter 6.05. So I did actually say which portion of the Ethics Code was violated in violating the charter. So it's not like we just threw something out so that you can say, oh, if you don't have any jurisdiction, throw it out. That's the first part. Second part, this is a very small complaint, so you don't have that much documentation on this. My main complaint has to do with one small section which has to do with the charter, capital program. I bet you got these pages. If not, I'm going to read it for you. Laredo City Charter Section 6.05, capital program, the last section C. Section C clearly says, exception to the capital program, the cost of the utility expansion must be made by those requesting the expansion, and the city council will not obligate any citizen by adjusting the utility rate to defray the cost. This can be found in section 6.05, capital program, the last one of those paragraphs. Now you have to look at the big picture of where this all came from. The city recently had a water and sewer rate increase. Some of you may be aware of that. In the process of that expansion, I know all these numbers from the head. Anybody can contradict me, I don't care. $180 million is what is going to be taxed for the citizens, including you and them and me. Of those $135 million, $180 million, I'm sorry, $180 million, $135 million is for the maintenance. When you say maintenance, something may be broken, it's old, whatever. Mr. Clark can explain better than me on that issue. But the rest of the 45 million, or 24%, is for new development. This section clearly says those monies cannot be used for that purpose. Okay? I'm only talking about the 45 million. I'm not talking about the 180 million. I'm not talking about the 135 million.
Let me stop you there, Bishop.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, this was something that was acted upon by city council, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Correct,
So
sir.
in other words, it came up as an agenda
When I
item?
was in the city council in that particular meeting,
Hold on. This came up as an agenda item before city council, correct? And it was voted on by city council, correct? Now, the city managers do not vote in city council, correct?
correct, sir.
Okay.
Correct, sir.
Just
I
wanna be
agree with
clear.
you, I agree with you. But in the capital program, under section 6.05, it clearly says, he is the one who has to make the, they are the one who has to make the recommendations to the city council. Okay? So in the city council, they should have said, 45 million is wrong. In fact, in that particular meeting, I was there. I pointed this section out to the city council members also. So what I'm saying here right now is, I keep saying here, I am not neglecting you at all. They should have clearly said 45 million is for the capital improvement, which may be in violation of this section. That's the part, again, I can file a complaint. It was their job in that section, capital program, which clearly says who is responsible to make recommendations to the city council. 6.05 clearly says the management has to do it. So the management made the wrong recommendation. That's why it's filed against the management. I can go on and on because this is not a big case, so I don't have that much to say. But I do need to say.
Excuse me, Mr. Ish. The word that you're using is recommendation, right?
I'm sorry, sir?
The word that you are using is recommendation, right?
Correct.
So, but they have no authority, they just recommend.
They made the wrong recommendation, sir.
Yeah, but who votes on it?
But if you make the wrong recommendation, it's like this.
Answer the question, who votes on it?
The city council. I agree with
Thank
you. I agree with you. Now, if he makes a wrong recommendation, if you vote on it, then you are still in charge, or he made the wrong recommendation. I'm saying they made the wrong recommendation. They should not have made that in the first place. It's not who voted on it. I agree. That will be another complaint. That could be definitely another complaint. Absolutely.
So basically, you're saying, in your opinion, they made the wrong recommendation, so then, in your opinion.
They should have advised.
Hold on, Mr. Just give me a chance.
Sorry, sir.
So you made the wrong recommendation or lack thereof in city council, and that's your opinion. Second, city council voted. Third, your opinion now is, your opinion again, that they violated the city charter because they made the wrong recommendation.
Correct.
I see.
Yeah, one more section is, the section 2.02, it says unfair advancement of private interest, which clearly says, it's as a general rule, a city official or employee shall not use his or her official position to unfairly advance or impede private interest. In this particular case, we are advancing a private interest by giving $45 million for new development.
And who is advancing those private interests? The city
That
managers?
again came from the city manager's
The city
recommendation.
managers, they voted on the item?
They did work on the item, yes, sir.
The city managers voted on the item?
No, they made the recommendation, and then they voted on it. So they made the wrong recommendation. Usually when something like this comes, it's like this one. If he's going to say something to you, you are going to take that word for granted. They made a recommendation to the city council, hey, we have to do this, and they did it. Wrong recommendation.
Mr. Vish, I have
Yes,
a
sir.
question for you.
Mr. Patino.
So, The focus of your complaint is actually Dr. Martinez. That's your focus.
This issue has nothing to do with Dr. Martinez, sir.
No?
It has
So-
nothing to do with the Martinez.
Because basically, I'm trying to understand your argument, okay? So,
Nothing to do with Martinez, sir.
I understand. Give me a minute, Mr. Rich. Give me a minute. Let me,
If you did that, then you are definitely off record.
Hold
In
on.
the sense, I even said what I was talking about.
I understand, Mr. Rich, but let me explain myself. I'm trying to understand this.
Then,
You filed a
if we can go
complaint
back to the first item, we can talk about that again.
Mr. Rich, you filed a complaint against the co-city managers, am I correct? Because they didn't do what you thought that they were doing their job.
Item 1 or item 2, sir?
Right.
Which
But-
one? Item 1 or item 2?
But let me explain this. So
I'm not sure which one you are talking about, sir.
Which item are you referring to?
He said something about Martinez. There's no Martinez here.
I understand, but you filed a complaint against the co-city managers. Is that
Okay.
correct? Is that correct?
In the item number 2?
Yes.
Yes.
That's your.
Correct, sir.
Because they didn't
Yes,
do
sir.
their jobs.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What I'm trying to figure out is, what is it that they didn't do that you think that was
In
important?
section 6.05C, they are under capital programs, they are supposed to make a recommendation.
Okay.
And I believe they did not, at that particular $45 million, I mean, I'm talking about the $45 million, nothing to do with Martinez, okay? That $45 million recommendation is, I believe, is wrong.
Okay. Why
That's
is-
where I'm here.
Okay, but let me explain, this is why I mentioned Mr. Martinez, because the complaint under Mr. Gomez was that Dr. Martinez is what, the investment on that development is what the complaint is. So is that what you're trying to do?
That is incorrect. It has absolutely no bearing, one thing on the other.
Does this has any,
I'm just trying to understand, Mr. Ish, what is
what?
it that?
I'm a little lost, sir, I'm a little lost.
I'm
Please,
just
go
trying to
ahead.
understand the complaint against the city, both city managers. Because, have you ever been involved in removing a city council member?
Yes, I have.
You have?
Yes.
Okay. Which one?
Mr. Vera, is that relevant here, sir? Is that relevant here, whether I was involved in removing a city council?
I'm just saying, because
Uh-huh.
if you strongly believe, and I think the chairman mentioned it earlier, there's other remedies that is there for you.
He's not an elected official to be removed by vote.
No. I'm saying.
How can I remove him by election,
No,
by a
I'm not
recall
talking
petition?
I'm not talking about the co-city.
I don't know which one you are talking about, sir. Are we talking about the city, co-city managers?
No. I'm talking about what the main issue here is.
Main
okay?
issue is the city manager.
Right, I understand. But if you want to do change,
I cannot
there's
recall
other
him.
remedies to do that.
I have no remedy to recall him. Can you tell me which remedy I have?
Okay, let me explain this. If the main goal was to, from both complaints, the main goal was to complain against both city managers because they didn't do their job over what city council is doing, okay? There's other remedies that are there that you could do. You've been involved in this for so long, Mr.
That's exactly why I'm asking you, sir, to remove this, for this particular item, to remove those two city managers, what remedy? Can you please tell me that? One?
Well, I think that you have to go to city council and
I
request.
did. I was in the city council. I told you this committee already before.
And that is where the.
I did make the same presentation in 60 City Hall. I did.
And I
I
think
was
that
in the city
there's
hall when this particular meeting came up.
The other remedy would be to go to district court. There's other remedies.
I agree with you on that. I
There's
can file a
other
lawsuit.
remedies.
I can file a lawsuit. Thank you, son. You are getting more money.
What I'm saying is, you do understand that our jurisdiction
But
was.
this is also a location to come. Like I said, I already clearly identified from my end, sir, Mr. Chair, from my end, I identified 2 charter violations and 1 ethics violation. You are the ethics committee. That's why I am here. That's one of my choices to come here.
Let me ask a question, and I really don't want you to interfere with my question. So keep your mouth closed until I finish. Okay, that's fair enough. I kept mine when you were talking. Now, here's the problem. You are mad because they made a recommendation you didn't like, and you felt that it was wrong. That's fine. Now, the city council, okay, took their recommendation, didn't have to accept it, and they voted on it. Now, if you are against that recommendation, against what city council did, then your problem is with the city council, not the people who made a recommendation. Because all they did was make a recommendation. They didn't say do it, okay? They just recommended. And that's the key to this whole ballgame, okay? You're complaining against somebody who makes a recommendation when the people who did it wrong was the city council, in your mind. Now, does that explain what you're trying to say, or what I interpret? Now you can talk.
Sir, the section 6.05 is exception. Hold on, sir, one second. Exception clearly says it's an exception to the capital program. So the people who are producing this document, there's an exception to that document which says you cannot do this. So they made something wrong to start with. It clearly says in the section, exception, they have all these rules they have to follow. The section C says exception to capital program.
You're missing the point that one was a recommendation and one was a vote.
It's not
the vote is what counts, not the recommendation.
But they should, what I am saying is they should not even recommend. That's what I'm trying to say again.
That's your opinion.
I agree.
And that's their opinion.
That's what the charter says.
Both of them are opinions.
But the charter says you cannot do that. Read, please read 6.05C and tell me that they give them permission to do this. Make the recommendation rather, not the voting, make the recommendation. 6.05C does not give them the authority to do that. We have legal counsel here, you can ask him to check into that too. See 6.0, the exception to the capital program. The reason it's there is because they don't want undue influence. That's why that clause is still there in section C. Their private interest should not be dealt with. That's why they don't want anybody benefiting from that. That's why 6.05C is there in the first place. It's an exception to the rule. All the rules are there. So they made the wrong recommendation. That's what I'm saying to start with. You can read that too, 6.05C. Exception to capital program.
Any other questions? Do you have anything else to say, Mr.?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to orient the commission. I know this is the first time you've done it, I just heard, but it seems like Vish is being asked to muster all the evidence that he would have brought forth in the ethics hearing, and he needs to almost prevail. But the standard for frivolous complaint is what I'm here, and he's here for today.
Let me go ahead and stop you there.
Whether it's
Mr.
groundless,
Nguyen.
bad faith,
What is the
it's
standard
groundless
here, Mr. Henry?
harassment.
The standard for determining whether or not there's a frivolous complaint? I think that's what Mr. Glenn is getting at.
Yeah, the standard is actually set out in the ethics code, and it basically says you're guided by Rule 13 of the Rules of Civil Procedure, and then it lists several other categories of things you're allowed to consider, but it boils down to, do you feel that the underlying complaint is groundless and either performed in bad faith or for harassment purposes? So that's the standard that applies to these complaints.
So what I'm saying is that, if you disagree with it, or you think it's weak, that's one thing, but he's very passionate, but there's no evidence before you that was brought in bad faith or harassment.
We understand, Mr. Glenn, thank you. Anything else?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, that concludes item number 5B. Can I get a motion to go into executive session, please?
Make a motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, there's a second discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, go into executive session at 7:27 p.m. Okay, we're back on the record. Time is 7:42 p.m. No action was taken in executive session. Okay, Mr. Henry, we've already gone ahead and covered items 5A and 5B. Now, the question is, what are the options for the commission?
At this point, if the commission wants to hear from anybody else, this is the time that you could call any other witnesses that the commission wants to hear from. If you don't want to hear from anybody else and there's no other information you want to collect, you basically need a separate motion for 5A and 5B in order to deal with it. Basically, you have the option for each one. You can move to conduct further investigation and ask for more documents or that witnesses be present. You can move to dismiss the complaint, or you can find that it is frivolous. If you find a complaint to be frivolous, your options to impose a form of penalty would include a civil penalty not to exceed $500, payment of attorney's fees associated with filing the frivolous complaint, which would be mine, and now I'd need to get an accurate number, but they're roughly about $4,500. Or three, what the code says is any other penalty that you're authorized by law to impose. Normally, what that means is you can impose penalties such as public admonishments, letters of reprimand, things of that nature. These particular individuals are not employees, so you don't actually impact their, their job performance or anything like that. It's just kind of the public declarations regarding the filing of the complaint. So those are your options, and it's up to the council what you want to do next.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, let me go ahead and take the first one, which is 5A, which is the complaint that was filed by Mr. Victor Gomez. We've already gone through that hearing, and so the time is now to go ahead and have the commission make a decision on that item. Is there any motion?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we find the complaint brought by Mr. Gomez before us is frivolous, and that we publicly admonish Mr. Gomez for the frivolous filing, but no fine to be imposed.
Okay, is there a second?
I second.
Okay, there's a second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Against? No against. Motion passes. Okay, next item is 5B, which is the complaint that was filed by Mr. Vizana, dated May 28, 2019. Is there a motion?
Chairman, I have a motion. I move that we find that Mr. Complaint filed by Mr. Vish is frivolous and impose a fine of $500 and have him pay Mr. Henry's attorney fees for the complaint of filing.
Okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second motion.
Mr. Zapata seconds the motion. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against? Passes. Next item is adjournment.
I move for adjournment.
Okay, second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, nay? We're adjourned.
Resign.